Alright guys, today I want to talk about a really underrated pair of running shoes from 1993, the Air Huarache Lite. But before we get into that amazing pair of shoes, which has only been retroed one time, with the exception of a few hybrids that aren't nearly as cool as the OG ones, I want to put them into context by talking about other running shoes and basketball shoes from the early 90s. So over here we've got a pair of Air Classic BWs. Back in the day it was the Air Max 4. BW stands for big window, and it refers to the fact that this really cool pair of running shoes has a big window of air on there. In the early 90s, Nike was really focused on making air bubbles bigger and bigger and bigger. So from 91, with these Persian Violet Classic BWs, we work our way over here to 92 with the Ultramarine Air 180s. These shoes are amazing, and the big innovation on this pair is that you could see the air 180 degrees around the outsole of the shoe. So you can see how the air got larger from 91 to 92. And then from 92 to 93, we got the Air Max 93, which back in the day was called the Air Max 270, because you could see visible air 270 degrees around the heel of the shoe, which is super cool. So from the big window in 91 to 180 degrees in 92 to 270 degrees in 93, air was getting bigger. But also in 1991, Tinker Hatfield came up with another huge innovation, and that was the Air Huarache. Over here is a pair of retros that came out in 99, but they're perfect for what we got to do today. This shoe is amazing. Huarache is Spanish for sandal, and this pair of kicks was inspired by a neoprene wetsuit that Tinker Hatfield was wearing while he was jet skiing on vacation. So anyway, this pair of shoes came out in 1991, and it was very, very innovative. I want to talk about some basketball shoes in 91, 92, 93 before we get into the Air Huarache Lite, which is amazing. Another pair of running shoes that came out in 93. So I've said all along that technology in basketball shoes oftentimes mirrored technology in running shoes. In 1991, this is a pair of Air Jordan 6s, and that was the shoe that MJ was wearing back in the day. Of course, these Carmine Retros came out in '08 as part of the Collezione packs, but they're perfect for what we got to talk about today. You're going to see a visible air window over here on this shoe, and I like to say that this is the last Air Jordan with visible air. The 3, 4, 5, and 6 had visible air, and some people would argue that the 16 has visible air, but the traditional Nike Air window was really only on the 3, 4, 5, and 6 here. So 91 was those Carmine 6s, and 92 was the Air Force 180, made famous by Charles Barkley. And you can see that the air bubble on the Air Force 180 matches perfectly with the air bubble on the Ultramarine Air 180s down here. The air was getting bigger on basketball shoes, just like it was getting bigger on the running shoes. And then over here, another pair of basketball shoes, and this pair was rated by Complex Magazine as the #1 pair from 1993, is the Air Force Max, also made famous by Charles Barkley and the Fab 5 at Michigan. This pair has a visible air window just like the Air Max 93s. The air's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, finally, let's get to the shoes that I want to talk about, the Air Huarache Lite. I'm going to place this pair of LE Huaraches over here just so I can grab them if I need them. But over here, we're going to have a retro, rather an original pair. Check out the box right here. Super duper cool, Air Huarache Lite. On the box right here is the logo for the Huarache, which if you look at it very closely and carefully, you can tell that it's a really creative H that was most likely designed by Tinker Hatfield. I'm going to break out this pair of shoes, very, very underrated, from 1993. I said Complex Magazine said that these Air Force Maxes were the #1 shoe from 93. They said that this pair was the #2. Check out this amazing shoe. It's really just an exoskeleton with 3 laces on the upper, and it all comes together beautifully. The colorway of this shoe is ultramarine, which refers to this shade of blue going around the upper, and it's going to be the same shade on the Ultramarine Air 180s down below. Most often when I hear Air 180, I kind of think of the pink shade over here because that's the famous ultramarine colorway, but ultramarine really refers to that shade of blue. And over here from 2004, I've got a retro pair of the same Air Huarache Light. I've said it before, they've made some hybrid models of this shoe. They made one with a free outsole, and they also made one with a visible air window going around the back, which is called an Air Huarache Burst. But this is the best of all of them, and it was only ever retroed this one time in the OG colorway in 2004. If Nike were to go back into its vault and remake these ultramarine Huarache lights, they would be a hit for sure. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed checking out 91, 92, 93. As the air bubbles got bigger, Nike was also really innovative with the Huarache technology. From 91 over here in this beautiful pair of Scream Green and Royal Huaraches. From that to 93 with, boom, the Air Huarache Light, OG pair, and then the retros.